Hi, property people. Thanks for joining us today. As always, we will be sharing ideas, experiences, problems, and solutions for property people like you. Our interviews will get you to know some of the most active professionals in the industry that have achieved some pretty impressive stuff. Hearing about their successes, failures, strategies, and insights, we really hope you enjoy. Hi, property people. How are you today? Today, I am very pleased to be joined with Kiren Gill. Kiren Gill is she wears a few hats, to be honest. Property investor, property sourcer, deal packager, property developer. Her husband's also in the trade, in the business. She's incredibly hardworking, an amazing work ethic, having managed to have literally thousands of coffees with investors in a bid to build her network and her business. A specialist in finding off-market hidden properties and gems. She's recently secured a really, really good joint venture, which we'll hopefully hear a little bit more about. But first and foremost, thank you for joining us today, Kiren.
Hi, Sam. Thank you for having me here. And I'm delighted that I'm one of your first female attendees here, really.
Not one of the first, you are literally the first.
Oh, I am the first. Well, I'm honored. Thank you so much.
The debut queen. So thank you. I mean, you know what? Actually, it wasn't intentional that happened. For some reason, the first 11 episodes have been all with guys, and then I realized at some point that you know what? Actually, this is not property people anymore. It's property men, and I thought, you know what? I really need to think about some of the amazing property women that I do know actually in the industry. And you were literally one of the top people on my list. And I thought I need to reach out and get you on. And here we are.
There we are. Thank you so much for thinking of me.
Of course. Well, actually, now that we're here, what I always like to start with is where did it all begin? Why property? And who were you at school, really? Because that always gives us an idea of how it all started. Did you always want to get into property when you were at school? Is this something you always imagined you'd do?
Well, the answer to that is no. I've not always wanted to be in property. But all I know is at that age, I think from a very young age, I had to take on a responsibility due to family circumstances. So at the age of 14, I got a work permit and I was just working at sort of, shopping malls and things like that. And then after that, while I was at school, our parents also got a shop as well. And so I was going to school and then I was working sort of after school. I'd come home, go to and work in the shop to relieve my mum from the shop. So I'd be working there till the evening. And then weekends, I'd be working at the shopping malls. So I was really, wasn't really focusing too much on school, not too much on, it's really supporting my family, I think. My focus has always been supporting my family. And then from the age of 16, I had, to make a decision whether I want to continue studying. At school, we had NatWest Bank, when they come and do these kind of career things.
Yeah, of course.
Came to visit, and I was really drawn to sort of the bank visit, and I'm all that, lots of money, so I'm drawn to money, I think. So I sat the test, and before I actually even did my qualifications, like, you get O levels, we used to have GCSEs. So before I even sat that in mock exams, I went and sat the bank exam. And as soon as I sat that exam, I got the job. So then I didn't really bother about the exams.
Right.
So as soon as the summer holidays came, and, in 1980, that was it, shows my age. As soon as I left school, the next day, I went straight to work. So that's what my work ethic has been like. It's like, for me, I've been always like a serious worker. And I remember from one of my corporate worlds recently, one of the guys said to me, "You're very industrious." And I didn't know how to take that. I'm very industrious. Am I a machine or what?
But that's a compliment, I think, if somebody's industrious, especially if they are going into business. I think you have to have that trait within you, because it shows that you're hardworking and you are you're constant and persistent. And I think that's what industrious means.
Yeah, but having said that, I did fall into property, not because intentionally, but like I said, it was to support my family. So by the age of, when I was working at the bank, so about 17 or 18, so easy to get mortgages then. So I got a mortgage. But before I got the mortgage, my bank, my NatWest Bank, they said to me, look, you're working in 3 different places. They found out. And they said, you're working, obviously at the shop. And then you're also working with NatWest. And then, you're working at, actually at that point, it was the service station. I don't know if you know it, Granada service station, it was called.
All right.
So 3 jobs I was handling at that point. And I was managing to meet my friends as well. So I don't know where I got all that energy from. But because of that, what the staff policy was, they said that, you've got to either choose the bank or, basically they were saying it's their policy not to allow you to sort of work anywhere else.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it must be some kind of safety kind of thing. I don't know what the reasons was. I was too young to think about it. And I thought, okay, let those jobs go. Having said that, I continued working at the bank. And it worked in my favour because then I got my first mortgage as well. So I bought the first property for my parents when I was about 17. So I was about 17 years old, yeah. And that property was in West London in Hounslow. And then after I got married, my dad had passed away, etc. So my mum was going to move over to sort of help her financially. We said, look, we'll sell that house. And then from the house that we sold in Hounslow, gave her the deposit to get a house in Nottingham. So that was really to assist my family again, and which I love doing really, because I think, parents do so much for us. I didn't see that as a burden. I felt that was my responsibility. And then when I got married, we got a house in, I think, 1986. That's when my son was born as well. So that house we bought and we had it sort of rented. Okay.
Yeah.
So we had that rented and all the money used to go to my in-laws. So it was never a business. So I'm kind of trying to tell you that I've always done a family thing. I've never thought of it as a business. Yeah. And then later on, our family, my brother, my mum, everyone, they're on their feet. They wanted to sell the house in Nottingham. So we bought it off them. So we bought that house off them in about 1987, I think it was. And so we rented it out, me and my husband. So again, accidental landlord, really, twice.
Right.
But we didn't really take it as a business. We sold one in Nottingham. We got, about 50k, profit out of it. And really that got spent. So it goes to show we weren't really thinking of it as a business like we are now. And so really my life, we have, bought properties, and we bought something off plan in 2010, which was in Budapest. So that was an off-plan experience. Yeah, as an off-plan experience, we were told, this is a good area to invest in right now. Then obviously the property crash happened, and we had an option of whether keeping it or sort of cashing our chips in really. We decided to keep it, and that I just recently sold, so we didn't get much money out of that, but we made about 20k on that, so it's not a big deal really.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, along the way we've done things, but never on a serious level. So really, answering your question, I've never really wanted to be in property, but accidentally I've actually been there in property. So I'm, but not really understanding the business concept of it.
Yeah, so it does sound like you've actually had a pretty interesting journey, but it's been just through, those initial purchases must have been through just a general cultural, everybody needs to own their own home, we need to get on the property ladder, and then you were the one that people came to help facilitate it, and then you learned a thing or two about it, and then you made some good money off the back of it, and you must have noticed that consistent improvement of kind of gathering wealth, gaining wealth off the back of it, and you thought, let's do a bit more of it.
No, not really at that point. It was in the subconscious, probably I'm thinking that, but really realistically my focus was always on my family, and then I had children, then I spent time bringing my children up, so I've got background in finance and working at West, and then after having my children, looking after my in-laws, I was a stay-at-home mum as well, so I've done that. And then I qualified as a systems engineer, Microsoft, MCSE qualified, worked for Merrill Lynch, Euronext, Life, all of those kind of big trading companies. Right. And I was the first female there. So it's kind of
a trend here.
So I remember the first time I turned up at one of the, investment banks, the guys turned around and said, "Oh, you here as the data clerk?" And I said, "Wow. I'm here to do the build." So you're here to support so-and-so, I can't say the person's name, the project manager. No, I'm here to do the build. I'm like one of you guys. And they couldn't get their head around it. So they're thinking, what do we do? Anyway, they gave me one PC, they were like really thinking, what is she going to do? Within seconds, it just took me you know, because I actually, when I was learning my MCSE, I had a whole network set up at home. So that's how I work. What I tend to do is if there's something I need to do, I really break it down into pieces and I need to build that jigsaw puzzle
Yeah,
and really
yeah,
understand it. So I take a long time doing things. I don't just rush into it gun ho and think, oh, whatever,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
whatever happens, happens. So through that, I mean, when I was at the MCSE as well, I mean, I was getting 96%, etc. So
wow.
I've done really, really well. And that's why you know, I've got my 3 kids as well at that point. But that's because I was actually a stay-at-home mum, so I learned all of that during that period. But yeah, so as I was saying, so at that point, you know, eventually the guys, before they were like really scared, and then they would say no, because I had good customer skill services as well. So they'd be like, why don't you phone the trade guys? Because they seem to be, you know, you're able to book the appointments. I was booking about 10, 15 appointments while these guys could only give back 4 or 5 appointments. Because
Yeah.
it's, again, to do with people, like you say, it's about people skills. And so I was knocking out these PCs and so yeah, so in the end, the guys were basically, you know, first they were like holding the door for me, and then they were like just slamming the door with all these PCs in their hands and stuff. I mean, in the sense, what I'm saying is I became one of them in the end. But it's almost like initially, it's like you've got to prove yourself. That's like in any world, I think.
And I think that that's probably molded you to get to where you got to in the property industry so quickly, because you've been making talks and speeches about your progress, and there's YouTube videos about you now,
Yeah,
about the deals that you're doing, the joint ventures you're working on, and I
yeah.
think it's just that constant work ethic and an ability to get things done, which comes through. So actually, one thing that comes to mind is, have you heard of this thing called the wealth dynamics?
I have, but I've never sat it. I've never sat down and worked it all out. I'm one of those people that's a doer. So
Yeah,
I'm actually trying to practice not being in the business now. It's trying to practice being out of the business because like you were saying, I wear various hats. I feel that I can do everything. Even when I took this project on with our new JV that you were mentioning, which we'll talk about later on, even in there,
yeah.
I stepped in as a project manager. So I didn't outsource it. It's because I need to understand before we start doing the bigger projects, what does it entail? The whole system, the whole process. So I think that's how I'm made genetically. It's like I've got to really understand it. If I don't understand it, I don't move forward with it.
That's interesting. And I think that that's also a trait of people that work well, is that they go into some level of detail so that they can actually understand the mechanics of it,
Yeah.
to be able to then to deploy that skill and do more of it and scale up. And as you say, you've been recently learning about how to make this into more of a business as opposed to working in it and on it. Can you explain a little bit more about how that process has gone on in your mind and over the years?
Okay, so like I said, you know, initially I started off as a sourcer in 2015. I did the first Masopi course.
Right.
So I
What's
dedicated,
Masopi? Just for people that don't know Masopi.
oh, is it multiple streams of, what is it
Property
called?
from
What is it?
multiple streams of property income, I believe.
That's it. That was in 2015. But it's one of the progressive law. So
Yeah,
that initially gave me an insight into the property world. And I
right.
went in there with a very clear business plan. I mean, I was in the corporate world and I left in 2014 in September. So when I left in September, one of my family members, they had cancer. And I thought during that time, what I'm going to do is, you know, help them to go chemo, that kind of thing. And another family member was helping out. But during that time, it helped me to evaluate all my skill sets. And I thought, what do I really want to do? I wanted to run my business. And what are my skill sets? I'm, you know, jack of all trades and master of none. That's because the kind of background I've had. But when I sat down, I thought, you know what, I love properties. Because the last property I did, corporate career I was in was build and design, working with major teams. So that was when I made the decision that it's got to be in property. My husband's a, you know, builder, and I thought that's, you know, a team sitting there right there with me to work along beside me. And so what I did was, yeah, so did the Masopi, did all the training, got a mentor on board, and then I focused, even then, like I was saying, I don't tend to, you know, sort of meet my targets. I tend to beat my targets. That's kind of
Yeah,
a theme that runs through me as well. So we were on the mentorship program. We were told about coffees, have 100 coffees, you know, try and get to know investors. And I'll tell you who the greatest person is about joint ventures and the psychology behind meeting people is Vanish Patel. he helped me immensely, because I was like, yeah, I've done my course. Yeah, I've got corporate career. Yeah, I've got teams. I'm ready to roll. I'm going to take over the world. He reined me in a bit and he said, hang on, you've got all this, but where's your audience? So the whole world is there. There's going to be plenty of
Yeah.
people. But I really learned at that point what I used to do years ago in my corporate world, a PA and PA to the directors, where I used to arrange all these coffee meetings. I was an office manager there as well. And I used to think, God, these people go off for coffees and dinners and lunches. Do they actually work? But
Yeah.
only when you run your own business, you realize how important these coffees are. But I was the master at doing this, because I had to actually have spreadsheets, calendar management. So for me, coffees was a no-brainer. It's like, coffees, yeah, I can do those. Okay, there's 100 to do, yeah? So that's your aim. So within 6 months, I did 400 coffees.
Jesus.
Well, yeah. But that's because I did it like a strategy. I get very serious when I'm in business. I like wear that hat and I'm just very focused.
You beat the target. You didn't reach it. You beat it.
Yeah, I beat it. And then we had targets
Smashed it.
of on-site. Yeah. And then we had targets of on-site tours. So we were told, try and get 1 or 2 people in, just so they can get to see what it would, the feel of how you work and how you work with teams, etc. Give them an example. So with that, because my husband was doing building work as well, so we were showcasing the projects our teams could deliver on, so people wanted to work with us. So I wasn't getting 1 or 2 people. I was at the class of 40 in our sort of workshop with Ranjan and Vanish, and I actually, did 5 in my first one. And I said to Vanish, next one's going to be 10. And he said, this lady thinks she's going to be the next one. I got 12 the next time.
You're
so
kidding
it's
me.
like, yeah. And then I was running, 2 of the on-site tours a month. It was getting really busy. People were learning a lot, but I'm always about giving. So my nature is about giving. So even on the on-site tours, they were structured, 3-hour structured tours, where they would meet and greet. And so they would pay, £10 just as a commitment fee, really. And then we would give them lunch. They would have meet and greet. They would network, we'd go off to site. They would get insight into all of the sort of the build, sort of design, the whole lot. And they'd not ask any questions. We'd come back, have lunch, and just sort of Q&A kind of thing. So they went really well. People used to enjoy it a lot and they learned a lot. But then it wasn't me about thinking, well, these people are going to give me. It was more about touching base with people, getting to know people, and seeing the right kind of people I want to work with. So I'm very thorough, and I really sort of think sort of a bigger picture of how people naturally connect, not just forcefully. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And
Yeah.
so in terms of, so this is amazing. So in terms of this process, this system that you've been able to take from other people, I mean, Vanish is a great guy, I know quite very well, and Ranjan as well, who's got his own YouTube channel, is doing really well. These guys know a lot about property and a lot about the property business. So you've been able to take what they've, what they can share with people and implement it quite successously to have built up your own investor book effectively.
Absolutely. We've also set targets for, build your own investor circle. And I thought, why would I want to do that? Well, there's plenty of people. We can just do the deal. But then again, if you send one deal out to 100 people, how do you manage it? How do you control that?
Yeah.
So then on my investor circle, I've got about 30 people that I work with. And so I beat those targets as well. So, I mean, I think everything I aim and put my mind to, I know I'm successful in. I know I can do it. That mindset of mine is very strong from a child. If I want to do something, I will do it. I'll find a way. If I wanted to get a job at 14, I wanted a little bit more money because our circumstances were such that, it would have really helped if I did that. So I just found a way. It's, my parents are in a dire situation. I need to get a job that's going to allow me to get a mortgage and help my parents out. And then also with my children, my in-laws, I've always, been ahead of the game in the sense of, even with my in-laws, I mean, I was a carer for them as well, up to their last days, really. I was with them throughout their chemotherapies and their cancer. I love family. I'm one of those people, if people get to know me, I'm very professional and I'm very serious when I'm working, but I'm really softy in the sense of that I really love family. To me, family is everything. And
there's 2 things that I take from what you've been saying as well. Is one, mindset is very, very important in in being able to achieve something, having the right mindset.
Yeah.
But also you're very people driven. I always say, I've said it many times, property is a people business. And that's why the channel's called that. But the fact that you're really focused on getting the best for your family and the people around you, and the tours are not just to be able to generate money, but it's also to get to know people, to see actually who I should and shouldn't do business with, or where these potential opportunities can go. It's not just what's right in front of me, but it's the other opportunities that can arise that we're not talking about right now. But it's all within the people and that mindset that drives you to get those results consistently. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was, if you're going to do a deal, you need, they say, two things for sure. One of them is the deal and the other one is the money.
Mm-hmm.
Which one do you need to come first? Because this is like an age-old thing. Some people say, oh, if you've got the deal, the money will always come. And some people say, well, you need the money first, because if the deal comes, you don't have the money for whatever reason, then you can't do the deal.
Okay.
So where do you sit with that?
Okay. Money, for people that are out there with the mindset of money's not there, money's everywhere. Okay. Money's not a problem. It's how you manage people's expectations, and it's how you present the deals to people, and it's how you build those relationships up with people. Deals is the hardest thing you can do. Okay. So you can get deals that are, with the estate agents, you can get deals from all over the place. Okay. But to get the real deals, okay, so with my case, I have, like, say, hundreds of deals I go through. Okay. And one will get through that, and then I'll evaluate it. After evaluating that, then I'll work out, is it good enough to, does it meet my criteria? Okay, of like, say, a 20% ROI and yield of, like, say, 4% in London, and say 5 to 6% sort of going slightly out of London, and I would look at about 8 to 10% sort of up north minimum.
Right.
But so deals, in regard to getting the real deals, is when you purchase the deal and getting the discounts. So for me, to get those deals is the hardest deal. And I would say, if you've got the knowledge and experience that you can sort of add value to a property, then that's a deal. So I think that's probably the hardest thing initially, but now I'm finding both of those things are quite easy because I'm doing them. Yeah. But
I think once you've got momentum, I find on both sides they actually become a lot easier. But to get that momentum, I mean, would you suggest? Somebody told me that to do this whole business, you need to be able to imagine that you've got to land two planes on a runway at precisely the same time. So you've got to have the deal and the money to line up so that you can complete the transaction. If somebody was just starting out, is there anything that would you tell them, look, go and find the investors first, or would you tell them go and find the deals first, or would you tell them you should be doing both at exactly the same time?
Okay, in my experience, I'd say not both together. I'd say you've got to have that in mind and build on both. So you've got to have, like you said, find the deals, but you find the deals later. You can get the knowledge and the training, etc., beforehand, because you've got to have that to be able to approach the investors. So you've got to have that kind of credibility to be able to do that. But if you've got investors, for me, I found I've got my training, then I've got my investors, but then I've got my deals in.
Right.
But alongside, I was still looking at deals alongside it. But it's not that you've got to have both going at the same speed or landing at the same time. But so that
makes sense. That makes sense. So in terms of, because you kind of touched upon how to find investors, and it's a relationship game, and you've got to have coffees with these people and get to know them a little bit, take them on tours of stuff that you're doing, and that helps build that investor relationship. In terms of sourcing, you've mentioned that it is the harder piece of the pie to be able to, or the piece of the puzzle to work out. But you've done it quite well. Is there a secret sauce to it that you could share with us? What is it? How do you go about it? Where do you find them from? Are they off market with letters? Are they through agents? Facebook? Where do you find deals? What's the secret sauce? Is there one?
So there's no secret to any sources. I mean, there's various ways you can actually get deals. But with me, usually they've been word of mouth. So I've told people I've got investors, they've got funds of such and such amount, any deals that come up, let me know. That's friends, family, agents, commercial agents. I just build those relationships up. Again, it's about relationships. I think your podcast is amazing. It honestly is about property people. And you know, it's just approaching everyone, letting everyone know what you're doing, what your intention is, and what teams you've got, what structure, what strategy, so people can get a vision of where you're going. So you don't just approach someone and say, right, I'm going to get a deal. Do you want to become my investor? It doesn't work that way. But I would say, to be honest, I think all of the elements of sourcing and also of having your joint venture partners or anyone, have them sort of sitting in the background. You know, that's your vision, that's your business plan.
Yeah.
So have like a SWOT. I always do a SWOT: strengths, weaknesses,
opportunities, threats.
I do that in everything, yeah. And so I looked at all of that and I thought, well, okay, I haven't got that, and that could be a threat, and that could be this, and that could be that. And then I look at, what do I need to do myself?
Right.
Do I need to bring people in? So having all those things in place, and if you're talking to an investor and they know that, hang on a minute, I don't personally build myself, but I've got a building team that will do that. You know, we don't have an in-house solicitor or, you know, accountant, but these are the people that I'm working with because I've built relationships up with them. They do property and they're, you know, experts in property tax. So in other words, you've got to know where you're going, build that plan and go sort of with that. But in regards to deals, I get that from all sources, but mine have been mainly direct to vendor, apart from there's the recent one we did as a JV, which was, you know, which we're going to talk about in a minute, is the auction property. Yes. So people are like, well, you get off market deals and you get, you know, sort of direct to vendor opportunities. And this is, you know, an auction. I don't give any, I look at anything that comes my way. And it's because this was local. I was interested to see what's happening locally. And I'll tell you why I started looking at that strategy was because when I was looking at some of the deals that were ground up, I mentioned that in some of my YouTube videos with Ranjan. So I've sent you those links, so do share it with people.
We will.
Yeah, that gives details about the actual deal itself that we've done, a joint venture. It gives people a lot of insight into what we've done. But what I started doing was, you know, instead of looking at just ground up, I thought, you know what, let me look at this commercial Terezi thing that Ranjan's doing, because it looks like the numbers seem to work on it. So I started, you know, looking at a few, like changing my strategy from ground up to conversions. And the numbers really worked on this deal. It really worked well with this deal. And then I went to auction and, you know, here we are. But there's, you know, a lot of detail to it, but I don't know how much detail you want to go into it because it explains a lot on all those YouTube videos. It really goes into detail.
So this, I mean, I think from what you're saying is there is no secret sauce, and really it's just about being prolific in the people that you speak to, wherever they may come from, whether they're direct to vendors within your existing network or agents. But you just need to be able to let everybody know what you're doing and what you're looking for, and then run the numbers, and being able to run the numbers accurately so that you can say, okay, this one works at this price, this one works, and then find out which one where the asking price is kind of close enough. Yeah. So that you can pursue those ones. And then eventually one falls through.
Absolutely. But I mean, you've got to do the right training. I mean, I did, you know, sourcing courses, I did sort of land courses, and they help you to be able to analyze the deals, because if you can get the numbers right, you know, then you know where the risks are, where the constraints are.
Yeah.
That really helps you to understand if you're just wasting your time on a deal that looks great, because you get loads of deals from either sources or from other people. I'd look at it and think, hang on a minute, it's come to me from 10 other people. You know, how much of an opportunity will I really get to really win this deal, kind of thing. And if there's so many people in the chain, so it's better to do your own legwork and do your own connections with people. I find they're the true deals, and I think that's why they pay off better. But having that training, I think, is crucial if you're looking to get your own deals, because you're not going to just find it. Well, I mean, people probably do, because I mean, like I fell into sort of property as an accidental landlord. So people do fall into it and they'll make their mistakes and learn from it. But I find with all that background I've got, I forgot to mention, I did used to run a building company years ago as well.
Isn't that the line of work that your husband's in?
Yes. So I'll share something with you on here. So when I was running the building company, I worked very different systems, processes, corporate structures. Whoa, that blew him away because he's a general builder. You know, it's like, whoa, you're just bringing in too much. So, you know, I was getting all these CDM regs, you know, health health and safety and, you know, all the talks. Even on smaller sites, it was just like overwhelming for my husband at the beginning. But he took on the processes. And then I thought, you know what, let him roll with it now and let me sort of look into my own field, what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, I'm very, I would say my expectations are so high. And I think working together as well and living together,
Yeah.
I think I'm divorcing if I carried on.
I had Aaron Cock on recently, and I was asking him actually because they're a kind of a property power couple duo, and it's not easy to be able. I mean, any line of work, not just property, but if you're living and working under the same roof, it has its pros and cons. Put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, running the building team, because that's his actually what he's been doing for 30 odd years. So me running it and telling him this is what you need to do, it's not going to work. But
Yeah.
if he's my power team and just gets on with it, you know, provides me a quote. Even for this project, I had
That's
5.
handy.
It is, and he helps me to cost the project, so that's a big bonus
Yeah.
for me. So I would say that's the biggest bonus for me because that's where people go
Yeah.
wrong is with costings.
Yeah.
But for the tendering process, I still go out to 5 different people. Why? Because it's my joint venture partner's money, it's investors' money. It's not just my responsibility.
Correct.
You know that you know, sort of I don't put money in. My investors are putting it in, and JV partners.
But
So
you're treating it as if it's your own.
I'm treating it better than it's my own because
Right.
sometimes you can let certain things go and think, okay, you can deal with it tomorrow or whatever. But when it's someone else's, I feel that, you know, I couldn't sleep if I owe someone a penny. That comes from when I was working at NatWest Bank. In the old days, they used to have half a pennies. Yeah, we weren't allowed to be half a penny overdrawn as a staff member. So I learned that very earlier on that debt is not good. But debt is good, obviously, when you're investing. But you know, I don't go overdrawn. I'm not one of those people. My husband will go overdrawn and pay the fees, but I don't tend to go overdrawn.
Yeah. So yeah, my folks.
Very risk averse person.
No,
Very risk.
it's you know, my partner and I, she's much more kind of careful about going
Yeah,
overdrawn and those kinds of things. But
yeah,
I think that what I wanted to touch upon actually is since you mentioned, you know, joint ventures and your joint venture partners cash in the deal. Joint ventures are a sensitive subject in many ways, but they're really, really important. And lots of people talk about them. And they do actually enable lots of things to get done that wouldn't have, you know, because everyone brings something different to the game. One person
yeah,
brings some skill, experience. The other person brings the money. Somebody brings some time. And together you make something happen. But picking those joint venture partners, I always like to ask different people about how they go about doing it. What are they looking for? What are tells that it's a big no-no? What are the things that, you know, like, for example, somebody was telling me the other day, if somebody squeezes my hand too hard, I
yeah.
think that they're trying to prove something to me and they're trying to have one over on me. So I won't deal with that person. Something as small as that.
Yeah, I don't believe that because I've been taught sometimes that you've got to have a firm handshake to, you know, to sort of say that you're serious in business. So I don't see that as a negative. I don't see that as negative if someone does that. It shows me that they, you know, are quite sort of, how can I say? Yeah, it gives me the impression that they're serious in business. I mean, if it's a limp handshake, that worries me more than a, you know,
Really? Because they told me the opposite. They said if it's a limp handshake, they're not actually that serious about dealing with me, and they're just kind of like pushing me off. It's funny how these things are interpreted in
no,
different
no, that's
ways.
exactly what I'm saying. Like if it's a limp
Ah,
handshake, I worry
right.
more about it for having them on board as a JV partner because I'm like, if they're limp now, shaking my hand, where's the
Right, right,
effort?
right, 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 right. He's not
They
bothered
have to
right
do
now.
it or something. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
What
yeah,
other things are you looking for in terms of a joint? So you've actually got a joint venture partner. What do you feel made that one work for you?
okay. So I got to know my JV partner since 2016. She
Right.
came onto our on-site tours, and she was a part of my investor circle. So yeah, so we built that relationship up over time. And I mean, there's lots of other lovely people I'd love to work with, and I'm sure I'll still work with them. But you know, the kind of people that I do steer away from are people that are very pushy, very demanding, or they want things done really quickly. Although I do that when I'm working.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What I mean by that is in regards to it's got to be a gentle conversation. This is about building a business relationship together. So
Yeah.
it's, you know, you've got to get to know both sides. You know, you've got to get to know them personally as well. So that's why for me, I couldn't just joint venture with someone who's giving me money. I've had people offer me money, loads of money. I'm talking about substantial amounts of money for JVs or deals. But that's not what I actually get drawn to. I'm drawn more to the personality, people that have the same kind of shared values as me.
Yeah.
And I look for people that I could work with, easy personalities, but people that are knowledgeable. And also I look for people that already understand properties. So I don't have to explain too much of it.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want anyone thinking that I want to pull the wool over their eyes kind of thing, I want to be in business with them. I want them to already bring some kind of knowledge and something to the table, and not just money. Because money, like I said, once you've done a project, you can get money anywhere, I think personally. If it's the right deal, you can get the money. But for a JV, I think, there's a lot of other elements you need to think about before you even think about a JV. I mean, there's all these PS14/4 FCA regulations. You can't do pool funds and think I'll work with, about 10 people together or 5 people together. It's just not something that can be done, because if you do that, obviously you're going against the FCA regulations, and you could get fines for that, or even
it's more hassle than it's worth if you try and dodge that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's there for a good reason, actually, because like, as you say, we want to be dealing with, in an ideal world, sophisticated investors with some knowledge, so they understand that there is a risk involved here. And yes, we have a good track record, but sometimes things go wrong, and you are at risk of losing the money. But there's no risk without reward.
But absolutely. But that reminds me of the point you were asking me about my systems. All of this is a part of my systems. So getting the training on board, getting the teams on board, getting my systems and processes on board, getting that foundation really solid in my business first before I start thinking about I'm going to make money. I've invested more money into my business. My accountant was like, networks, okay, coffees. Oh my God, that's all expense. I was paying for those coffees.
Yeah,
I invested in those people because they took time out to meet me. So I invested in all of that. And then I started actually doing my business to full force, really. But you were saying with the systems and process. So I've been working and wearing so many hats, like I was saying to you. I've done the sourcing, I do the evaluation, I do all of my admin stuff. I used to do my bookkeeping, I used to do everything, but I've started delegating that to admin to do bits and pieces. So I get someone on board now once a week. But because of COVID-19 now, I can't get that support. So I was struggling. It's like I can't get my cleaner and I'm struggling. So now our youngest son, he's decided to come on board, which is really great because he's really inspired by our last deal, and he's really inspired by what I'm doing, and he's helping me overall. So he'll be taking over that side. So I will no longer be working just solely in the business. I'll be working on the business as well. So from a higher level. So really it's come to the point where scaling up and taking it to the next level. But it's taken from 2015 to 2020 to get there, because I was doing it by myself.
No, that's actually, in the grand scheme of businesses, they say that it takes some time. It takes at least 5 to 10 years to become an overnight success. And no one sees the hardcore paddling of the duck under the water as it glides across from one end to the other. And 2015 to now, actually, where you're at, it seems to be totally reasonable considering the amount of effort and work that you've put in, which actually, now I do want to talk a little bit more about the meat and potatoes of this deal that you've been able to pull off that we can check out on YouTube. It's an interesting one because it's something that Ranjan, I know, talks about a lot. Well, I'll let you talk about it, but all I know it's a commercial to residential conversion.
Yes. So it's a commercial to residential. I saw this as an opportunity and I went to view it. It was an auction property. When I went to view it, it's basically like a long shop, and so it's retail with offices at the back, and it's got a flat above. And I thought, okay, it's a small deal. This is the type of deal I can test my JV on. So that was the purpose of it, to test my JV. Also, I knew it was a good deal. I could have, sourced it out and got a profit for it. So I knew it was, it was on, guide price was 230K. So from the 230K, I did all my numbers. And I thought, okay, what's the highest I would pay for it? Highest I would have paid on that was 250 and no more. Not a penny more, because that's just like, there's a certain, ceiling I just don't go above. Then I spoke to my JV partner. I said, look, Susanna, we've been looking to do some deals together, and I know we've considered doing joint ventures. and we've got to know each other, and I'm happy to explore this deal with you. What do you think? She goes, I love it. Let's just go ahead, because she's been waiting all this time.
Awesome.
But I had to be 100% sure that I would be able to deliver returns on her investment with me. And so we did all the numbers, it all worked, did the viewings, took my teams there, did the costings. And then, so then I actually before pre-auction, I did make an offer of 230K really. And they said, it's going to go to auction. They don't want to agree any price, even if you agree on 250 or whatever it is, it will go to auction. So I went to auction, and so there wasn't very many people in the room, and I thought, wow, this is bingo. But there was a delay, so the auctioneer decided to wait another 15 minutes because they heard there was a delay on the trains. So then the room was just flooded with people. I'm like, oh God, I'm like, no, stay positive, because I'm like that. I switched just like that with my mind.
Yeah.
Anything can go wrong in my life. I'll go through that sort of low mode and I just pick myself up like that. So I thought, remain positive. And I thought, okay, if this is all you're going to go for, it doesn't matter how many people are bidding. If it doesn't, you can move on to the next deal. So yeah, we bid for it and we got it at 244.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you were in the room, was there, how many other people were bidding against you? Was it, did it go from 230 down?
Yeah, for that particular deal, I think there was a handful, at least about, say, 7 or 8 people for that particular deal. Yeah. And I spoke to those people afterwards. They had their own ceiling. They wouldn't have gone over, I think they were saying 235 or something, or 230. My initial offer was 230, so they were thinking of bringing it lower. But I had a different strategy. And that's another thing. When people are looking at deals, everyone looks at it from a different angle.
Totally.
So, yeah. So for me, the angle that we were doing, I knew the numbers worked. So I think I've got hay fever today. It's very hot, isn't it?
It's that time of year.
Yeah. And going back onto the auction. So we bid, we won. And then me and my JV partner, we're there, we paid the deposit. And then we're working out in the background. I've been speaking to other lenders to make sure that we've got all the funds there beforehand as well. So you've got to get bridging finance or your finance ready for these deals. And also you've got to have building insurance straight away. So you've got to be able to deliver on 10% on the day of the auction. And then obviously after the 28 days, you've got to have the full amount. So we had bridging for the full amount ready. So everything was ready. My investor was going to bring in part of the deposit and for the build. So we're ready to go. I'm at one of the events, and that's where I met Ranjan. And Ranjan heard about my deal and he said, Kiren, I said, well, thanks to you, Ranjan, I'm doing this deal, so it's worked. He goes, well, I want to fund it. And I said, we've already got a funder. And, and it's funny how we sort of got about that. But wow. We were really delighted to actually have him on board in the end. And it's been a dream. It was like... So
Ranjan's providing the bridge.
The bridge. He's providing the bridge. But the benefit to us was, I'm like, well, Ranjan, how's that going to benefit us? We're going to be paying the same to you that we're doing to a bridger. And he said, look, I want to showcase this because it's a really good deal. And, you'll get media coverage, media as in like social media. And also I said, well, okay, but we were going to do our own social media, but having Ranjan's backing, with his followers, I'm like, well, that would be really good for us for, scaling our business up. So that was a tick box. And then also, then I said to him, look, whatever you're going to be sort of funding, that's what we're getting from Lend Invest. They're great. They've done a really good offer for us. Because I'll tell you what, I'll beat it. So we weren't paying any fees on top of that. So we saved another 10K or so. So, yeah. So, but even then, can you imagine? I'm thinking this is the greatest guy who does commercial to Resi. But I had my commitment to this lender and then this broker. I'm thinking he's going to lose his fees. And then me and my JV partner were like, oh my God, if he loses his fees, we couldn't sleep properly. So we paid half of his fees and then we moved on to Ranjan.
Wow. So again, it's all about the people, making sure you look after the people in the process, and that will come round in one way or another, whether you believe in karma or not, some way, shape or form, that will repay itself. So in the end, it sounds like you've done everything over the last few years to be able to build up to this point where you've been able to secure a property that you've bought for 244. What's the GDV on it?
the GDV on that, what we've, for the flat is 400, okay? And for the shop is meant to be about 200, 600, it's about 700. But what we're looking at is the profits we're going to get, even in today's market, the minimum we'll get is 200K. So that's what I'm looking at, is that my investor will get above the 20% ROI. So all the numbers are actually, you know, I haven't got them at hand right now, but all the numbers are on those videos. It explains all of it in detail. But what I look at is, will the returns, taking into account contingencies for your build and taking into account, say, if the market was to go down, okay? So if the market goes down, you've got to have like 10, 15%, even 20% in there to make sure is it still a good deal. So for me, it was a good deal, regardless even the market goes down, as long as they get, you know, above 20% net after all costs, then it's a good deal to me. So that's what I call a good JV.
So you're always stress testing it to see, because at that time you didn't know that COVID-19 was around the corner. Nobody did.
No, but I knew Brexit was a little bit of an uncertainty, and I knew a market crash could happen. So I accounted for that, but always account for it, because isn't it better to have that earlier on than later on, and then try and find out what to do? So
and whilst you're doing this particular project, whereabouts are you with it now? Are you
the project's complete. The project is complete. And the shop has been sold at 170K. Yeah. And we had other offers, 180, 190K, up to the 200K. But it was basically to do with finance. So we thought we can either wait another few months and get all of that money. But then we thought, let's just, in today's market, we don't know how it's going to go. I'm a risk averse person. So I spoke to my JV partner and I said, you know, the minimum we were looking at was, you know, I don't want to mention it on here, but the minimum we're looking at on the numbers for it to work, not that we were going to sell it at that amount, was 150 it works on, 160 it works on. So 170 is in the mid mark, and it's still giving us, you know, 200K profit. Like 6-7 months.
So so you're at the end parts of that particular project. In the background, whilst you're project managing it, making sure everything goes smoothly, watching the economy, are you also in the meantime looking at other projects and looking at other deals that you could possibly do? Are you running that parallel?
Okay. While I was doing the project management, I was solely responsible for that money for my investors. So sourcing deals was really hardly anything I did. I'd hardly sourced any deals in that time. Reason being, I wanted to make sure, because I was ordering the materials, you know, all the suppliers, all the utilities, all to do with planning permission, all the sort of design build, everything A to Z that it takes to do a new build, because a conversion is like a new build. So all the fire strategies, working with building control, council, you know, getting the door numbers, you know, every single aspect of the project I was in charge of. So I wanted to make sure that I deliver on it. So my focus was really, I'd say, you know, on the project. So I was wearing my developer hat, my project manager hat at that point. But when things started slowing down, then I did start towards the end looking at a few deals here and there. So we've got some in the pipeline. You know, we've already got land deals, and then we've got commercial to resi we're looking at, and we're making offers on a couple of those. And then there's a block of flats. There's a distressed semi-detached house. That's a distressed sale. We're looking to kind of make it, help the vendor in that way as well. I must say, it's true. In my company, I am about a help. My company's name is Parachute Properties. It's my youngest son who used to do branding, and he said, Mum, it's got to be about you. So the branding is Parachute, it's helping you land the best deals. Now, it might not be best in accordance to someone else in regards to, you know, the criteria might be different, but best in the sense of whatever I say it is, I will, you know, deliver the best deals, like say the 20% ROI, whatever our agreement is. But yeah, so it's about helping. So this particular lady has got a property in a crisis, and she wants to sort of, so we're dealing with basically the mortgage people, and I'm trying to tie it all up. So it's like an assisted sale. So that's below market value. So those are still, that's direct to vendor. So they keep on coming to me. So I feel like I'm like this magnet. People just are drawn. All these deals are just drawn to me. It's weird. And I'm not sending out letters or anything.
That's the question I was going to ask. So it's just through your network, because you've met so many people and people know what you do. And your branding is that, you know, Parachute to me sounds like you are somebody that jumps in and dives in and helps people, you know, when they need it. So if that's how people associate you, then they see something that's in distress, they see something that's a little bit difficult, somebody needs help, and they call you to say, can you help?
Yeah, actually, those are the kind of words people say. Look, I've got this. Can you help? And I'm like, I will do my best. I never say yes. Let me have a look
Yeah.
at it. And if it's for my investors, I'll let you know. Otherwise, take it forward, because I don't want that person to be in more trouble than they're already in. If I can't deliver on it, I let them know. Because there's no point in taking something like that. How does one sleep if someone else is going to be bankrupt or something nasty happens to someone else's life? So I couldn't do that. I couldn't live with that.
And so in terms of where you want this to go, because you have some incredible momentum behind you right now, in terms of, in terms of property development or planning, there's a lot of people that like to buy sites and then take it through planning and then flip it. Or there's a lot of people that just, they want to see their creation and see it built out. There's some people that won't touch things like full planning. They'll only do permitted development. Is there something that you've focused on that that is your next kind of thing, or the way you want to end up? Or are you taking each day as it comes, looking at what's in front of you and making a decision based on that?
Okay, so basing on the current market, I'm looking at commercial to resi, and I'm looking at the opportunities that are to do with retail, because there's going to be a lot of opportunities there. But it's finding out what you can do, whether there's Article 4s, what constraints are on the site. Also, PD is going to be a bit relaxed in certain ways, so we're waiting for the new sort of updates on those. But I'm looking at conversions, but equally in regards to development projects, I'm looking at them, but the numbers don't add up in today's market at the ones that I'm looking at. But they're still in the pipeline, so they could work. What other deals would I say I'm looking at? I would say mainly I'm looking at conversions at the moment, currently. Yeah.
And are they to sell or buy and hold, or again, you just judge it as it comes on its merits?
Okay, so my strategy is, everyone's saying, look, that deal in Ealing, capital is going to grow, keep it. But for myself personally, I'm looking to build a pot to do the bigger projects.
Right.
So for me, I'm not looking for holding and renting and managing. I don't want that kind of management sort of way, really. I even with my JV partners, if they want to then take it on after our JV is complete, they are more than welcome to do that. And but my strategy and Parachutes Property is to build to flip, really. And if it's not a market that you can flip, the strategy is still got to be in there, the exit strategy, to be able to rent it. And the money's still got to work on that in case, as a backup, really. Because you've got to have various strategies where you can, refinance or, rent it out. So those are always in the equation.
Yeah,
but our focus is buy it, add value to it, even leave a little bit of room for someone else to add value to it. But yeah, buy it, add value, and there's a demand for housing. So there's,
sure.
I know the price, we could have a property crash, anything can happen. But the way I look at it is there's still a big, huge crisis here, the housing market. So, I'm not looking to be this great big, multi-millionaire company at the moment, but it could go that way, because I think all things happen in stages. But we're at the stage where we can do one unit, and all the systems and processes I learned on this one unit, there are actually 3 units, because there's one property above, and then there's the shop that we've converted, and then we've got the units at the back. But I would say 2 units from there, we could easily replicate that into 10 or 12 units, because the systems and process and the time, I could have done 10 units in that time. So that was my learning, actually, because, oh my God, I spent all this time and energy, doing this, one bed and one shop, retail. But what I learned, and I think I've done it in the safest way possible. And I mean, we can't give advice to other people what they should do and what they shouldn't, because everyone's different. But I'm very risk averse, and people that are risk averse, I think, try it on the smaller ones, test it out, be 100% on what you're going to do. And that's how we've actually been successful in that. Now I can really hold my head up high and say, you know what, let's do 10, let's do 20, because I've got the systems, the teams, the processes. And now I know 100% I can deliver on the bigger deals. There was a doubt before. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think what you're saying is that it's a good idea to start small, think big, and grow incrementally, which is exactly the way I always see everything. And that's what you've done. And I already kind of knew this before, because we've met a number of times at different places, is that you've been able to, over the years, build up a really strong network because you've been people focused and relationship focused. And these are people that are either investors, people that are bringing you deals, people that bring you knowledge and experience, people like you mentioned, Ranjan. And even having your husband at home who's going to help you with the build cost. So you've seen all the different pieces of the jigsaw that need to be there. You've made sure you've got them all, and then you've slowly pieced them together one by one, and you start small and you're just growing and scaling every single day. So one of the questions then, to meet all these people and do all these things, we've got the, you know, the understanding that there's got to be coffees, there's got to be touch points. Where's the best place to meet these people? What kind of networking events? Or, I mean, these days, Zoom calls, are you like, is there some particular way that, Facebook? I mean, how do you do it?
Well,
Hubs?
I was meeting people physically, you know, one-to-one. But, you know, Zoom calls work really well. But I think with Zoom calls, you're not able to, the body language, you're not able to see, and, you know, I think I go with my gut feeling a lot, and I do go by body language without me sort of like, I'm not trained in it, but I can see how people are, how they react, how they respond to certain things, how they speak, their mannerism, and when they talk about their values, etc. You know, that was on a one-to-one basis. So it would always be a phone call and then a one-to-one basis. But I'm finding that I'm connecting with people on Zoom. And, you know, I'm finding it a bit strange because one, I'm looking at straight away now, I'm looking at the screen because I'm looking at you because I'm so used to making eye contact. But yet people, when they're going to be watching this, they're going to be thinking I'm looking down. I'm not looking down, I'm looking at you. But I have to train my eye to look at the camera. So that's like a new way of being. But I think there's nothing like one-to-one connections. But on Zoom, I think you can connect with people, and that could be your initial point of contact, phone calls, Zoom calls, but you must meet the one-to-one. I think to really get the feel of working with people, that one-to-one, even if you've got the social distancing, you know, have that distancing, but meet people, see the whites in their eyes and meet people person to
Press the
person.
flesh. You've got to press the flesh, I think. Should we give, I mean, in terms of networking events, when you were out and about, Ranjan is obviously, and Vanish's Baker Street property meet is incredibly popular.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a VIP member of Baker Street, and I find if people are looking to meet people in numbers, that's one of the best places to go. And, you know, at that point, I mean, I think they have about 200, 250 people at one go when they start.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but also there's other sort of experience networks. I'm a part of Partners in Property. Absolutely beautiful people, wonderful, successful people.
Yeah.
And they have these mastermind tables, and their values are really good as well. And the people that you meet there, you know, they've already stepped up their game. So then you're no longer just meeting people that are new in property, you're people that are at your level just above. Because I think it's really important in property, and this is, you know, something my mentor has taught me as well. You need to mix in with family and friends. You need to mix in with people that are slightly just below you. Someone who's at people that are at your own level, and then people that are above. That is what makes you wholesome, really, in business, I think. And I have that approach as well. So I meet with Partners in Property, Baker Street. We used to sponsor Bucks Property Meet. They're no longer, but I used to sponsor Bucks Property Meet. John Cox, you know, I get all my insurance from Insurance Desk. So what I've done is I've looked at also Property Investor News, absolutely fabulous magazine if people want to learn about property. So you look on there, which people are being interviewed, what are they doing? And, you know, it doesn't guarantee that they're going to be successful the next year or next month or whatever. But it gives you insight into what people are doing. And you have normally a whole list of all the networks there. So I did a bit of progression. Yeah, and they have lists of auctions as well. So it's a really, really good magazine. But things have really shifted now. So I don't know how that's going to work. But Baker Street, Bucks, you know, Ealing Property Meet is absolutely wonderful. It's one of my local meets, which is run by Richard Woodstock.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
And actually talking about getting, you know, more property sisters.
I was going to go on to you about that as well. There is. You've heard of them. They are absolutely fabulous. I'll tell you one thing. That's a force in itself. You know, we all met on Instagram, okay?
Really?
And it started off with like sort of dinner that was arranged by a group of women. We all attended the first dinner at Quaglinos in London, and these are successful women, really driven, and they feel like they're in a male-dominating kind of environment, so want to power together. But all the men are invited; they're still invited, but it's like empowering women, and all women that are successful and doing things in property. So anyone who's a part of Property Sisters is a woman who's successful, who, whether they're doing small projects, large projects, but they're doing something. They're active. I think that's the word we're looking for. They're active in property, and it inspires everyone. We're a part of the WhatsApp group, and then on Saturday we have a brunch, and it's out to the public. People can join. We've had a couple of guys join, and it's run by Claire Norwood, Ruth Hobbs, and the Property Urban Sisters. Carolina, she's a great design interior lady. She does fantastic stuff. So all these women have been inspiring me actually on Instagram. I mean, like I was saying about growing my business, I wasn't even doing social media before because I was doing everything. And I only got to social media last year. And I'm nearly hitting 1,000 on my Instagram now, I'm nearly there. And it's 990 something now. And I'm like, yeah, we're nearly there. But it's not about the numbers, it's about the quality of people. So all those people that are connected together. And you know what? Everything they do is not about money either. That's why they're in line with my values. It's about truth and honesty, integrity. And there's another lovely lady, Helen Chorley. And what she does is she's highlighting, what investors want. And also Claire, they're talking about integrity and truth, and about companies that are out there that are training newbies, and how they're getting, maybe the intention isn't to rip these people off, but somehow something's going wrong somewhere. So it's raising awareness. And then there's another guy, Property Investors Awards. I love attending Property Investors Awards every year. Cyril Thomas,
he's brilliant.
Cyril Thomas, he's now created PIB, I think it's called, Property Investors Bureau. I would advise anyone who's learning, property, they're sort of like venturing into property, check him out. Check out what they do, because anyone that's going to be listed on their sort of, anyone who signs up and part of their bureau, it's like got a tick box. They've kind of filtered out the companies that are, not just there for the money, they're actually doing the real training. So that would be quite good, I think.
Cyril's a great guy. I mean, and all of the people that you mentioned, I do know them, and they're all great. And I hope that they will all come on one day.
Absolutely. Paul Higgs, he's another guy.
He's
he doesn't miss his words at all, and he's absolutely amazing to do with land deals. I learned a lot from Paul. He's a friend, but he's also, I've done his courses. If it wasn't for him, I think I probably wouldn't be as good as evaluating deals, because he really drills down into the numbers.
Yeah, and that's super detailed.
Substantially. Yeah. Also, Mark Stokes. Now that we're saying all these people, oh wow, they're inspiring. Mark Stokes, he's another one. And SAS Pensions, he's got a SAS Alliance. So for anyone that's got a pension, they're good people to check out. So that if people that want to invest their kind of pensions into property. So, it's run by, I think, Wealth Builders. But Mark Stokes, he also does conversions as well. And he's got a book on commercial to resi as well. So yeah, I mean, I've learned for the best of the best, I'd say. I checked these people out for years, and these people have been doing it for decades. My husband's building companies, 30 years plus. So anyone I work with, I look for, I would say integrity is one thing, but also repetition, but also how long, their experience really within the field before I actually, like with Vanish as well and Ranjan.
Absolutely. Well, you know what, Kiren, I think I could talk to you about property and about people for absolute ever. I really want to thank you. We've run out of time, but I really want to thank you for coming on. I'm hoping that we can do this again sometime, where we are able to see how the project has exited, the one that you're working on now, the next ones that you're going to be working on, because I have no doubt in my mind that you're going to be working on those ones. I just want to thank you again for coming and spending the time with us and sharing all these hints and tips about your journey and what other people could do to get started. If people wanted to reach out to you and find more about you, as well as reach out to you, what's the best way that they can do that?
Okay, so they can go to our website. Needs to, be developed a little bit further now. I mean, it's up and running for years, but we need to improve it. But it's parachuteproperties.co.uk. That's the website. And my Instagram is Kiren dot Gill, Gill. So they're the two platforms they can really reach me on. I'm on LinkedIn as well, but I would say they're the two main platforms that we use, really.
Send me all of the links. I'll make sure they're in the show notes so people can find you. Thank you so much again. Have a great day and we'll speak again soon.
Thank you, Sam. It was lovely to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in today. We've got lots more super active property people coming up. So keep up to date. Click the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, leave us a comment, share us and find us across social media. And we'll see you next time.